2026 is not asking you to improve. It is asking you to be honest. Honest about the life you are living. Honest about the life you keep postponing. If anxiety has been following you, if rest doesn't feel like rest, if success looks fine on the outside but feels empty on the inside, this is not weakness. This is not failure. This is a signal. Most people will silence it. They will distract themselves. They will call it stress, bad luck, or burnout. But a few will listen, because sometimes anxiety is not trying to hurt you. Sometimes it is trying to wake you up. 2026 will reward clarity. It will punish avoidance, and it will expose every life built on autopilot. The question is not, how do I feel better? The question is, am I living a life that feels true? This is human discipline. And this year, we stop running from the truth. Self-transformation is not about becoming someone else. Imagine a person who has done everything right on paper: a stable career, responsibility, approval, and yet, each morning, they wake up with a quiet sense that something is off. Not dramatic unhappiness, just misalignment. Transformation is not reinvention. It is becoming more fully who you already are. It is the slow, sometimes uncomfortable work of aligning how you live with what you value. Change happens to everyone. Transformation happens only when a person chooses it. Across philosophy, psychology, and history, the same insight appears again and again. Most people do not struggle because they lack ability or opportunity. They struggle because they live in quiet conflict with themselves. They sense that a fuller life is possible, yet remain in patterns that feel safe, familiar, and incomplete. The quiet weight many people carry. There is a kind of sadness that does not announce itself loudly. It arrives gently and stays. It shows up in tired mornings, in conversations that feel automatic, in goals that once mattered but now feel distant. Henry David Thoreau captured it with painful clarity when he wrote, "Most men lead lives of quiet desperation." This is not ordinary dissatisfaction. It is the feeling of living below your own capacity. The ache does not come from trying and failing. It comes from never fully trying at all. Phillips Brooks described this inner tension as the thing we ought to be beating beneath the thing we are. What hurts is not hardship. It is the sense of a life only half lived. Modern life often protects this condition. It rewards comfort, stability, predictability. Responsibility becomes a shield for fear. Now is not the right time sounds reasonable, but often means, I am afraid to change. Soren Kierkegaard warned that the deepest danger is not failure, but becoming numb. A person does not lose a life through dramatic collapse, but through years of quiet avoidance. Those who work with the dying hear the same story again and again. In hospice accounts like Bronnie Ware's, people speak less about what went wrong and more about what was never attempted. The deepest regret is not failure. It is not living in a way that felt honest. When pain is trying to help you. This quiet desperation is not merely discomfort. It is often the first signal that something essential has been neglected. What feels like anxiety or unease may be the mind's attempt to restore direction. Pain is not always an enemy. Sometimes it is information. Moving before you feel ready. One of the most limiting beliefs of modern life is the idea that we must feel confident before we act. People wait for motivation, for clarity, for certainty. but the order is reversed. Action creates clarity. Discipline builds confidence. Meaning is discovered through movement, not waiting. Abraham Maslow observed that psychologically healthy people did not avoid fear or frustration. They simply did not let emotion decide their behavior. They acted while unsure. A similar principle appears in Morita therapy, which teaches acceptance of feelings alongside commitment to action. As psychologist David Reynolds put it, let the feelings take care of themselves. Do what needs doing. This is not cold. It is deeply compassionate. Waiting to feel better often keeps people stuck. Living better allows the inner world to catch up. How a life is quietly built. A meaningful life is rarely discovered in one moment. It is built quietly through daily engagement, by mastering a craft, by contributing to others, by organizing life around values rather than comfort. Those who live this way rely less on approval, see reality more clearly, and experience life more deeply. Purpose does not arrive fully formed through reflection. It grows through commitment.
Research and experience point to the same truth. Passion often follows competence. As Cal Newport explains, most people become passionate about what they practice, improve at, and invest in. Clarity does not come first. Commitment does. This requires habits, not inspiration. James Clear said it simply, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." Identity is shaped by repetition. Each small action is a quiet vote for the person you are becoming. Over time, those votes accumulate. Growth is not gentle. It exposes weakness, invites doubt, demands effort without guarantees. A meaningful life is not free of struggle. It is guided by a struggle worth carrying. Remembering that time is limited. The Stoics did not treat death as morbid. They treated it as clarifying. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Remembering mortality brings focus. It reveals what matters and what does not. Steve Jobs echoed this insight later in life. Facing illness, he said remembering death was his most powerful decision-making tool. When time feels real, fear, pride, and social pressure lose their grip. But mortality also reveals something painful. Carl Jung described a guilt that comes not from wrongdoing, but from failing to become who one could have been. Knowing time is limited and still living without purpose creates a quiet kind of suffering. Death sharpens commitment or deepens regret. It never leaves us unchanged. The courage to begin. Understanding does not change a life. Beginning does. Resistance often disguises itself as preparation, perfectionism, or endless thinking. Each sounds responsible. Each delays commitment. There is no moment when everything feels certain. Readiness is created through action. The first step does not need to be dramatic. It only needs to be real. One page written, one walk taken, 1 hour of focused effort. Movement creates momentum. Action reveals clarity, reflection cannot. Beginning restores authorship. Life stops feeling like something that happens to you and becomes something you are shaping. Choosing patience over speed. Real transformation is slow. Promises of instant change are misleading. Character is built through accumulation, small actions repeated with care. 2 mistakes undermine most change: trying to do too much too fast, or trying to change everything at once. Sustainable growth favors focus and sequence. One stable practice becomes the ground for the next. This also changes how success is measured. If success is only distant goals, discouragement follows. If success is honoring daily commitments, progress becomes visible every day. Holding tension with kindness. Psychological maturity does not eliminate conflict. It learns to live with it. Acceptance without aspiration leads to stagnation. Aspiration without acceptance leads to self-punishment. A healthy mind holds both. I accept who I am today, and I choose to grow. Growth lives in balance between effort and rest, confidence and humility, planning and presence. Not by choosing extremes, but by standing steady within tension. Returning to what matters. The question is no longer theoretical. Are you living in quiet resignation, or in a way that reflects what you truly value? If the answer is the former, the solution is not guilt or abstraction. It is one honest commitment made visible through daily action. Choose a practice that moves you toward a life you would respect. Treat it as non-negotiable. Expect resistance. Understand that difficulty is not failure. It is a sign of importance. Measure integrity not by outcomes, but by whether you keep your word to yourself. Community can support growth, but it cannot replace responsibility. Transformation begins privately. When promises to yourself matter, character takes root. A gentle call forward. Every life is finite. What separates fulfillment from regret is not luck, but the decision to live with intention. You can choose the brief discomfort of growth or the lasting ache of remaining unchanged. You can risk failure at something meaningful or guarantee regret by never trying. The question is simple. How will you spend the life you have been given? If you had to choose one small habit to begin this week, one practice that moves you closer to a life you respect, what would it be? Not someday, now. What you choose next will shape how you one day look back, with gratitude for a life honestly lived, or with the quiet pain of what might have been.